Manx Radio's Update with Beth Espy.
Well, first, my good evening. It's Monday, the 13th of January. This is Update with me, Beth. A rundown of some of the main things that have been happening on the Isle of Man, which tonight includes concerns about the high street. How do we reinvent it so people are persuaded to look locally before shopping online? Also, a call to the man in line at lunchtime lets us know the Isle of Man Post Office is going to stop selling savings stamps. What does that mean if you've got some you haven't used yet? We'll let you know later. And if you enjoyed the giant illuminated model of the Earth, which was on display in St Thomas's Church last year, we've got some good news for you. All that, and we'll look at the roads and the weather as well. And as ever, if you spot something when you're out and about and able to let us know, 166 177, or you can email studio@manxradio.com. We'll start, though, with a news roundup with Siobhan. Fastamai.
Emergency services have confirmed no one was hurt following a fire on Lazare Road in Ramsey this morning. A section of the road was closed for over 2 hours whilst the Isle of Man Fire and Rescue Service dealt with the incident. Officers have thanked the police and the public for their assistance, patience and understanding. Business Isle of Man insists its local economy strategy, which is going before Tynwald next week, isn't coming too late for retailers. Diane Kelsey, MLC, is the political member.
The reason why the local economy strategy has taken a little while to get together is because we've consulted widely, we've listened, and we actually have adapted our draft based on feedback when we've gone out to speak to businesses.
Police are appealing for information after a driver failed to report a collision on Currick Road in St John's, which caused considerable damage to a wall. The incident happened the evening of Tuesday the 7th of January into the early hours of Wednesday the 8th of January. This year marks the beginning of the end for the island's copper broadband network, which will start to be gradually switched off. It's hoped the project will be complete by 2029, with customers transferred over to the new system. Chief Executive of Manx Telecom, Gary Lamb, has been comparing the reliability of fibre versus copper.
The great thing about fibre is no issue with lightning. It's well known to be a lot more reliable. So if anyone has any issues with their fibre, it's very unusual.
Looking further afield now, the UK Chancellor is under increasing pressure as the value of the pound drops and government borrowing remains stubbornly high. Sir Keir Starmer would not guarantee Rachel Reeves' future in number 11 when pushed on the issue earlier. A man who was accused of driving his partner to take her own life after years of abuse has been cleared of her manslaughter, but a jury did find 30-year-old Ryan Wellings guilty of assaulting and abusing his partner, 23-year-old Kiana Dawes. And budget airline Ryanair has called again for a 2-drink limit on booze sold in airport bars. Bosses say it would produce a safer travel experience for all on board their flights. They're your headlines. I'll be back with your news at 6.
Thank you very much indeed, Siobhan. Now the weather brought to you by Manx Glass and Glazing. It's pretty horrible out there at the moment. Cloudy, extensive hill fog, outbreaks of rain or drizzle, staying mild though, strong southwest winds which will decrease overnight. Tomorrow it's going to be dull again, the risk of the odd spot of drizzle as well as some coastal mist, light to moderate southwest winds, and afternoon temperatures will be around 11 tomorrow. But the good news is a much better day on Wednesday. Sunny spells and moderate to fresh southwest winds. Top temperatures on Wednesday around 10. Sunset this evening was at 4:24. Sunrise tomorrow morning 8:30.
Manx Glass and Glazing can supply and install single, double and triple glazing. Call 674 573 or visit the showroom on the Snugborough Trading Estate.
If you run a small business or just need more room in the back, Philshaw Vehicles has the perfect van or light commercial for all your needs and can sort out any finance. Based in the Tremode Estate, view philshawvehicles.im or call 49 51 49.
A great night's sleep got even better with Zed's Bedding Store. From quality Beldorm bed linen and mattress protectors, fleece and woven throws to luxury duvets from the fine bedding company. Zed's Bedding Ramsey, next to Isle of Man Bank.
SMS Trading. New and second-hand furniture from flat pack to fully built. See our range at 3 St Paul Square, Ramsey. All island delivery and man in a van service available. Call SMS Trading on 315151 or find SMS Trading on Facebook.
The exclusive Karcher store is open with thousands of products, accessories and parts in stock. For Karcher sales and service, Hersham Electrical, Shipyard Industrial Estate, Ramsey.
You're listening to Update here on Manx Radio. It's just gone 5:05. Let's just give you some more details first about that fire that happened on Lazaire Road in Ramsey this morning. As we just heard from Siobhan, fortunately, no one hurt in that. A section of the road was closed for over 2 hours while the fire and rescue service dealt with the incident. At 9:52am, the Emergency Services Joint Control Room dispatched crews from Ramsey and Laxey to the property. And on arrival, they were met with a well-established fire producing lots of thick smoke. The incident commander then made a decision to attack the fire with a hose reel and 45mm jet from the outside. 2 firefighters in breathing apparatus equipment were then sent into the property with a hose reel, and a further 4 wearing breathing apparatus also entered to ensure the fire was brought under control and to stop it spreading further. Well, after around 20 minutes, that fire was brought under control. It was extinguished and crews stayed for around 2 hours, damping down hot spots to prevent any further ignition. The road was closed throughout the incident, buses were diverted, and the Isle of Man Fire and Rescue Service has thanked the police and public for their help, patience and understanding with this. It says while no one was hurt, the effects of fire can be devastating, and it's encouraging homeowners to undertake the online home fire safety check, which can help make sure that your home is safe from fire. You can find out more details about that at manxradio.com. 6.5 minutes past 5. Business Isle of Man insists its local economy strategy is not coming too late for retailers. Now, this is after a number of businesses on the island announced they're closing or changing the way they operate since the start of the new year. This strategy is going to go before Tynwald next week, that's the 21st of January, and could provide up to £2.4 million of support to the sector. Tim Cowsall is CEO of Business Isle of Man, and he's been telling us what the picture is like on the island at the moment.
We know that there's around 965 retail units across the island, which is quite a lot for 84,000 people. So we know we've got quite a large sector that spans across 8 towns and 1 city. So we do have quite a wide range, and it's been really clear that each town has a very unique offering. If you think about Ramsey, it's a very independent focused town in terms of independent shops. You've got Douglas, which is probably multinational, more focused, and then you've got areas like Castletown, which is sort of more heritage and hospitality focused, and then you've got Port Erin, which is very leisure with the beach and output. So it's been really clear that there are particular areas have got very unique characteristics. But on the whole, we know that our empty shop rate is lower than the UK by about 4 or 5%. And we know that that shows a good indication of how healthy the sector is. There is a turnover. These things do happen in terms of business. But on the whole, we have a very high spending rate on island in terms of consumer spend. Our locals go out and shop as well as they can do. And that's very clear with what we've got on offer at the moment.
And I think people might be a bit surprised to hear that actually our vacant properties on the whole, there's fewer of them than in the UK, because I think there is this perception that you're walking down Strand Street or you're walking down Castletown in particular, and there does seem to be lots and lots of empty properties. So do you think that perception in itself is not helping things?
I think it very much depends on the size of unit. So you might have one unit, but it might take a good percentage of the street. So giving that context. But it is in a better state. There are turnovers. New shops have opened. There has been but it's been a hard couple of years for the sector. COVID, cost of living. And we know that most of the local businesses are there that have been established for a long time are still with us and are providing the strategic and actual points that we need on the island. And that became very clear when we did the consumer side, understanding what makes people want in terms of the offering. It's very clear that there is room to do. There's more to add to it. So we're not saying it's perfect, but this strategy has come forward to align that and to support putting a bit more emphasis into it to support that vibrancy. So we have the services on offering.
That is Tim Cowsall, CEO of Business Isle of Man, talking to Amy. Well, how can we keep the high street alive? It's not a new question that's being asked. The Isle of Man, as we've just heard from Tim there, certainly isn't alone in asking it. Well, Valerie Miller, who runs Mother T's gift shop in Laxey, says it's down to all of us.
Last year, so come January 2024, it was like the takings just fell off the edge of a cliff. It was quite drastic, almost halved, I would say. And then that was happening happening consistently week after week. And we thought maybe in the summer things are going to pick up, and maybe they did a little bit, but nothing compared to the previous couple of years. So then again, we were kind of holding out for Christmas, thinking, okay, Christmas is going to be the time. And again, of course, it was busier. That rush and the experience that we had the previous couple of years, it was really like night and day, the difference to how many people were coming in and then how much people were spending.
And what do you think caused that really sudden dip in your takings?
I'm guessing that it's the cost of living crisis. I think the year before we'd expected things to drop off a bit because suddenly everyone's bills were going up, but it didn't. And then I think it just caught up with people.
What kind of things have you done as a business to try and help engage your customers and also to compete with an online offering, which is infinite and endless, isn't it?
Technically it is, although I basically had one of my customers' brothers reach out and he sent me a link to a product on Amazon, but it said currently unavailable. And he said, I really want to get this for my sister's birthday. Do you have anything similar? As it happened, I had literally exactly the same product. He was just absolutely delighted that I had it and that he would be able to get it in time for his sister's birthday. I think people who practice supporting local businesses, I think they have the most convenience. The ones who know the owners, I think they do a lot better at finding what they want conveniently at a good price, and also, more importantly, in a way that feels really, really good. I think we really do all have the time, even the busiest people amongst us. It's just forming the better habit.
We're only a week into the year and we've already seen a number of businesses announce that they are going to be closing. And there has been a lot of talk about government and how government can do more. How much do you think government can help in trying to aid people in changing their shopping habits to be able to better support local, and should they?
I think it's very, very tempting to look to the government to save us, essentially. But personally, I feel like it's individual people who can really save us by making these changes. And it is independent businesses that actually bring culture to our doorsteps. They are the beating hearts, pumping life force through our communities. And without them, we all suffer.
That is Valerie Miller from Mother Teas in Laxey, just talking about the high street, how you encourage people to buy local produce. Something that really got the conversation going on Man and Line at lunchtime, and also on our social media pages as well. If you go to the Facebook page, you can see the comments and share your thoughts on there. 12 and a half minutes past 5. Now, you might recently have received a booklet through your door from Manx Telecom regarding the switch off of the copper network. It gets underway this year and is expected to be completed by 2029. We heard on Breakfast this morning about the timescale and the challenges Manx Telecom has faced when trying to gain planning permission for telegraph poles for this new fibre network. We'll hear now from Chief Executive Gary Lamb on the reliability of fibre versus copper.
Yeah, I mean, the copper network actually here is really good quality, but you're always going to have issues with things like lightning. Copper doesn't like water, so some of the chambers that carry the copper network, you can sometimes have problems when it's wet. The great thing about fibre is no issue with lightning. It's well known to be a lot more reliable. So if anyone has any issues with their fibre, it's very unusual. Please get in touch with us. Often you find that it's not necessarily the fibre, it's probably your device. It might be the way things are configured in your home. So if people remember that actually fibre is really good quality, think about your devices and your setup, and speak to someone who will help you try to solve any problems you've got in your home. Because it's often not the fibre connection.
Anyone who's reluctant to go over to fibre, what would you say to them now?
Look, I would encourage people to take up the fibre. There really aren't any barriers if you've got access, if it goes past your premise, to take it. I know people can be concerned about, there's level of disruption, etc. Your broadband will be as good or better than it was before with fibre. We will make it as least painful as we possibly can for you. We just need to change that technology into your house, and you'll have great broadband. So yeah, I just encourage people to take the fibre product and help us get to the point where we can decommission the copper network, and we're all sitting with future-proof technology for the years to come.
You say future-proof. How long will this fibre network last?
That's a really good question. We talk about 40, 50 years. It's probably a long time beyond there. Fibre has a long, long life. It's usually the kit around the actual fibre itself that might need replacing. So this is going to go way beyond many of our lifetimes.
That is Manx Telecom Chief Executive Gary Lamb talking to Lewis there about the pending switch off of the copper network. Much more to that interview. You can hear it in full as a Manx newscast if you just go to manxradio.com. 5:15 now.
Manx Radio Travel, driven by Quayside Tyres and Service Centre.
Well, the good news is nothing on the police pages, so hopefully all okay for your drive home tonight. Just be aware that it's been raining quite a lot. There will be some standing water about. If there's anything you spot when you are out and about, 166 177, if you can text us, that'd be great. All looking good down at the airport, and the latest from the steam packet. The Manxman is on its way from Heysham, expected to get into Douglas at around 5:30 and heading out again at 7:15.
Ask how you can spread the cost interest-free at Quayside.
OK, so saving stamps are no longer going to be available to purchase at post offices on the Isle of Man from the end of March. The Post Office says it's part of efforts to adapt to changing needs. Tessa Hawley has this report for us.
The stamps can be used to pay towards bills and services, including gas, electricity, car tax and rates. Mark called the man in line, saying he was disappointed by the decision.
I've been using them for years. I mean, from a personal perspective, it's like each week, I put, £20-30 on the card. And obviously this time of year, you build them up and it's perfect for the bills because, as we all know, this time of year, you get a bill in and blows your head off, doesn't it? Whether it be gas, electric. If you have a couple of £100 set aside, especially come March time, you've got your rates, haven't you? Well, from a personal point of view, it worked brilliant for me. I just want to say that it keeps the cash flow, so using the post office is beneficial for them as well, isn't it?
The Isle of Man Post Office says all unused saving stamps will remain valid and people can continue to redeem them at post offices at any time. There will be no deadline for the redemption of them. And whilst the stamps are still being sold until March, this may be stopped earlier if the stock of them becomes exhausted.
I know how the stock feels. That is Tessa Hawley there talking about the saving stamps, which will no longer be available to buy at post offices from the end of March. As ever, you can find out more at manxradio.com. But a great example, I think, of somebody phoning into the man in line, asking a question and us getting the information as quickly as we can on that. So another open line on Man in Line from midday tomorrow. Got some good news for you now. Do you remember that giant illuminated model of the Earth, which was on display in St Thomas's Church in Douglas for 3 weeks last year? Well, a new artwork from the same artist is going to hit our shores next month. Siobhan is with me now and is going to give us the details. And quite literally out of this world, Siobhan.
Yeah. I'll let you have that one. A giant illuminated hanging moon will be on display in Peel next month. So like you say, people will remember that artwork Gaia, which was on display last year, which was a big Earth. This new one is called Museum of the Moon and created by artist Luke Jerram. It's described as a fusion of lunar imagery, moonlight and surround sound composition. That music's been created by BAFTA and Ivor Novella award-winning composer Dan Jones, again same as was the case with the Gaia installation. This new model measures 7 metres in diameter. It features detailed imagery of the lunar surface taken by a NASA satellite carrying the Lunar Reconnaissance Orbiter camera. Say that 4 times fast, which launched in 2010. At an approximate scale of 1 to 500,000, each centimetre of the internally lit spherical sculpture represents 5 kilometres of the moon's surface. And if you are interested in seeing it, it's toured all around the world, but it will be on public display at Cathedral Isle of Man in Peel from the 9th of February till the 2nd of March.
And we both went along to the Gaia exhibition, which was on in St Thomas's. You took some video for Manx Radio, and it's hard to describe it, isn't it? You can kind of get an idea of what it might look like, but there's something about seeing it in person and hearing that music. It's an incredible composition.
Yeah, I thought it was going to be interesting, but when you walk in, it's actually, the scale of it's incredible. And what I will say, when I saw it, when I went down to see it for Manx Radio, they'd just put it up that day. Go in the evening if you can, and nighttime, because sort of when it's all dark around it and that sort of globe's lit up, it's amazing.
Yeah, really atmospheric. So that is going to be on display at Cathedral Isle of Man in Peel from the 9th of February until the 2nd of March. It is well worth going along. Siobhan, thank you very much indeed. It is coming up to 5:20. Now, many of the top comedians that we see on television today started their career in the same place. No, not here on Manx Radio. Instead, Cambridge University's Footlights, which has seen the likes of Stephen Fry and Hugh Laurie, Mel and Sue, Simon Bird and Joe Thomas from The Inbetweeners as members. And this year, the Society's annual Spring Review will include some Manx talent. Annabelle King has been developing her stand-up routine while studying music at Cambridge, and she's been talking to Howard.
My first comedy thing I did was acting, because I was in a student-written comedy musical at the Edinburgh Fringe, Summer Just Gone, and then from that I started doing some stand-up, which I started doing in term, and obviously Cambridge is a great place to try and do that, because there's the Cambridge Footlights, which are still there and thriving. So I've now joined the Footlights, and I'm going to be in the Spring Review in February, which is their annual showcase of the graduating Footlights, because I am graduating.
A who's who of any of the big names in British comedy. The vast bulk of them have come through Cambridge Footlights. I mean, just off the top of my head, I'm thinking John Cleese back in the 60s, Stephen Fry in the sort of 70s or something. I think I read quite recently that Richard Ayoade is also a Footlights man. So you're treading in the footsteps of giants there, really.
Yeah, I mean, it's difficult, isn't it? Because it's very hard to conceptualise that. Because to me, I'm just sort of trying out some comedy, and I just so happen to be in Cambridge for that. So I'm now doing it with the Cambridge Footlights. And then you think, oh wow, like the Cambridge Footlights has produced a lot of these huge names, like Mel and Sue as well, who I really like, I think. Yeah, so that is a cool feeling.
And have you do you feel you've based yourself on any particular favourite comic that you might have enjoyed over the years?
I would love to say that I have based myself on Miranda. I don't really know if what I actually do is similar to her. I guess it is kind of. She's a slightly more slapstick, and obviously her show's a sitcom rather than stand-up. But she is definitely my absolute favourite comedian ever.
Do you see the comedy at the moment as something as a, you're at Cambridge, you've got the Footlights there, let's give it a whiz? Is it something you feel you'd like to develop a bit further, or...?
Yeah, I'm 100%. I mean, may as well be optimistic about it. Yeah, I mean, and also with stand-up, it's actually quite similar to the piano, which I grew up doing, where, like, I'm the master of my destiny, so I can decide how much of it I do or how much time I put into it, because it's just me, and I actually really like that about it. I think sometimes doing productions is rewarding in a different way, because there is something to be said about like working together as a team with people and coming up with something great, but when you're on your own you don't have to worry about anyone else, and I quite like that. And certainly in terms of going beyond the university sphere, it's a nightmare to start trying to meet up with people and coordinate schedules with people, but when it's just me, I can think, yeah, I'll go and try and perform at that place or whatever.
That is Annabelle King talking to Howard on the latest edition of Spotlight. You can find that at manxradio.com. It was really interesting when she said that one of her favourites is Miranda, because I think she's got a bit of a Miranda sound to her voice, doesn't she? But we wish her all the very best. It's an incredible thing to do, really brave, because you really are putting yourself out there with comedy, aren't you? But we wish her all the very best, and hopefully we will keep up to date with how she's doing. 23 and a half minutes past 5. Let's bring you some sports news now, and some sad news first of all, because tributes have been paid following the death of a former Southern 100 champion. Selwyn Griffiths died on the 11th of January at the age of 83. The Welshman won the 1964 Senior Manx Grand Prix before making his Southern 100 debut the following year. In 1966, he took the checkered flag in the 500cc race before repeating that victory 2 years later. Selwyn continued his annual pilgrimage from Pontypool every year up to and including 1974, collecting another winner's laurel wreath in 1971. As the classic races evolved, he took 7 podium places between 1987 and 1991, including 3 race victories. And his final race was around the Ballown course in 1999, where he took 2nd place in the senior. Southern 100 Racing says Selwyn was a regular welcome visitor every July up until last year, staying with former clerk of the course and now President Phil Taubman. Organisers have described him as a unique character, always smiling, adding Selwyn made many friends over the years, all of whom will be saddened by his untimely passing. However, they say the fond memories and tales will remain with us forever. And if you head over to the Manx Radio Facebook page, there's some lovely photographs on there of yesteryear showing Selwyn. I just want to let you know that in athletics, Nikki Arthur from the Isle of Man is, as we speak, taking on this year's Spine Race. Now, that's a long-distance endurance event in the UK. It began yesterday morning. Participants are racing non-stop along the Pennine Way in this British winter, so experiencing the full veracity and magnitude of this iconic route. Nikki actually won one of the smaller races last year. Her partner, Oren Smith, has completed the Spine Race twice already. I just took a look at see how she's doing a short time ago, and she's expected to reach the next stage at around about 5:45. She's been going for more than 25 hours so far, so we'll let you know on tomorrow's programme how Nikki is doing. We wish her all the very best. Well, that is all from Update this evening. As I say, do head over to the Manx Radio website and Facebook page for the very latest on all tonight top stories. Stay tuned, lots to come over the next few hours here on Manx Radio. Up next, it's Agenda with Phil Gaughan, and tonight he's going to be hearing from the longest serving Tynwald member, Bill Henderson MLC, who's hoping to retain his seat at the Ledgeco election, which is coming up at the start of March. Then Chris Kinley will be here from 6, kicking off your Monday evening with Greatest Hits. At 9, it's Time for Brass with Ian Cottier, and then Dave Moore will be here with After Hours from 10 p.m. And speaking of Dave, if you haven't had a chance to listen to his special programme on the Solway Harvester yet, it is well worth a listen. It was to mark that 25th anniversary. You can find that as a podcast at manxradio.com. Ben will be here with you with breakfast from 6 tomorrow, and I'll be back at Man and Line time at midday. Whatever you're doing this evening, have a good one. Talk to you soon.